what are you inspired to do next? Rather than grasping on to needing to have it all figured out or understanding what your purpose is, if you follow that next inspired step, then not only will you get closer and closer to a vision that you wouldn't have even been able to guess was possible for you, but you're going to really start to learn who you are and what you want and what you desire out of life.
Real quick, before we dive into today's episode, I have a free gift for you. In celebration of my new program, Money Magnetics, I'm giving away my Money Magnetics guided meditation. Ooh, say that 5 times fast to you for free. Every time I do this meditation, I kid you not, if I do it for a few days in a row, money magic seriously happens. It really, really works. I cannot wait to share it with you. You can download it now at kelseyAida.com/MM freebie, MM for Money Magnetics. Find this link in the show notes, and you'll have to send me a message on Instagram to let me know how it goes for you. Enjoy! Hello, magical beings on the other side of this podcast. Welcome to one of your favorite shows, hopefully. Hi, Vibin' It. It's your homegirls, Kelsey Aida and Lindsay Robinson, here to help you live your best life, as always. And today we have a very special friend and guest on, Miss Hannah Uhler. She is a shiny, magical creature who also just so happens to be a coach and consultant for women in business. She is the host of Design Her podcast, and she's a spiritual and brand mentor. So welcome, Hannah. Thank you for being here. I'm glad we could finally make it happen.
We finally made it happen. This has been like months in planning. So I'm so excited to
Yes.
finally be here.
And
with
if we
you guys.
if we did it then it wouldn't be the solstice, which it is today at the time of this recording. So it's perfect.
Exactly. It was meant to be.
Hannah. How you doing, Hannah?
I'm doing great.
You look great. Guys, if you're not on our Patreon, you are missing this view.
It's a good view.
It's a good view. I want to ask you how you got to, we always ask the journey question, the path question, what brought you here? What is it that you do and how did you get here to do it? So whatever you want to share on that is super powerful.
Oh man, I followed the breadcrumbs. I didn't even know that what I'm doing is a thing. And here we are. So it's been probably 8 years since there was one really significant decision that I made when I graduated from college. Went to school for marketing and business because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And that felt like that was the least restricting decision that I could have made. And I was always really interested in the process of bringing a vision to life and the ability to do what you love and to have the skills to be able to do what you love. So that's as much as I knew. And previously to that, I had kind of followed the rules. I got the grades. I went to college, even though I was really drawn to art and the creative arts when I was younger, but I wanted to follow the logical path. And I don't regret it whatsoever. But when I graduated college, there was a decision that I made that started to alter my path in a really big way when I really started to live for what was true to my heart. And I decided I'm not going to get a job. Like, I went through all of this. I don't know what I want to do. And instead of rushing into something, like, I'm just not going to get a job. So I continued to wait tables, saved up money for 10 months, and then packed up everything and I moved across the country. And that was my big start to really discovering what it is that I actually wanted out of life. I had these these breadcrumbs. I had these ideas of what I wanted. And that was the first time that I stopped listening to all of the little birds in the air telling me what the smart path was, what the logical path was. And I followed my heart. And I moved to New Zealand, and it's, first of all, just absolutely gorgeous there, and just did a lot of traveling. And not only did it open my mind to what was possible, but it's really when my inner journey started. And I really started to question my beliefs and question who I thought I was and question all of the things. And it was just kind of a catalyst. And in the meantime, I was learning about digital marketing. I was learning how can I continue to keep doing this and living this life of freedom and not, living on anybody else's schedule or building someone else's dream. So I'm learning digital marketing and I'm going through a spiritual awakening at the same time, building my business, and my ego's dying over here and just questioning everything, but at the same time getting so clear on who I am and what I want out of life. And I didn't know that I was going to be here now. I am a mentor coach for women in business. I help anyone from a solopreneur to larger corporations that I work with. And I didn't know that I'd be doing this today, but it was that moment 8 years ago where I made this decision, like, I'm done living life for other people. I'm going to really follow my heart. I'm going to follow where that's taking me. And over the years, it's evolved into doing something that just honestly lights me up every single day. So, and it has its challenges. Like, that's the highlight reel. Of course, it's hard, but I'm doing the thing, I'm building my dream that feels like it's most authentic to me. And that was a scary path, but we're here.
Yeah.
We're
It's
doing
so
it.
interesting. The theme for our guests usually tends to, and I'm included in that when we talked on your episode of your podcast, your story and my story are very similar. Right out of college, I'm like, this ain't for me. And I just like effed off to the other side of the country just because like that's what made sense, even though it made no sense. And I think for those that have lived it and like experienced it, that's the best way I could put it. Like, it's the only thing that made sense as a forward movement to me. But if you asked me why, I could not tell you. It just felt like the thing that I had to do. And a lot of our guests share that experience of like, I couldn't make sense of it. I just listened to my intuition. I listened to my heart. And I can hear, I really do have so much compassion for those that are listening that are like, well, easy for you for whatever reason, right? But it's never easy. And I say this a lot, but I will die on that. There's a lot of hills I will die on apparently, but this is one of them. There are, but it is one of those, like, it's never easy. I don't care what your situation is. When you listen to your heart over logic, it's like usually one of the hardest things you've ever had to do, especially at the time. It's only when you look back and you realize, oh my gosh, that's what that was. And that felt really good. So I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's ever done that, because that is always the most difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it's not easy to go against the grain. And Hannah, I love that you're sharing your story because it's a beautiful example of how you don't have to know the how, right? You just have to hold in your vision of how you want to feel and the vibes of the dream life, right? And with that alone, the universe can deliver it to you in the most creative, fun, effective, growth-filled way when you're open and you say, okay, I don't know how, but I know this is what I want. This is how I want to feel. This is how I want my life to be. And I just love that you're a glowing example of that, because I'm always trying to preach to the people that you don't need to know the how before you start and before you make the decision, because sadly, so many people try to talk themselves out of their desire because they don't know how. And they feel like, oh, if I don't know how, then it's not possible. So let me just pretend like I don't actually want what I really do want. But in the spirit of authenticity, which we're all about on the show, and you're a shining example of that, it's really great that you are sharing this story here because it's important.
Yeah. I appreciate that so much. And it's funny, every time I've tried to make a plan, because I'm a Scorpio, I have Scorpio like all up in my chart. I love to control. Like I love to have a plan. And it's so funny that every time, like, I've tried, and I will continue to try, and I don't think I'll ever be able to like fully give that up. But the minute that you try to follow the plan you think is the pathway to getting you there, is the moment where the universe is going to shake it up and give you another plan. Just for, in my experience, it's like, it's this big cosmic joke of, it's who you become when you finally let go of the plan or of the how, or of how you thought it was going to happen, that you actually get the opportunity to have the experiences that are required to be the person who has the thing. but our mind will like create this little plan that's comfortable or that's in alignment with the version of who we are now. And it's like, man, when you get there, you're gonna be an evolved version of you. There's no way that you can think your way there right now. So you can have your plan if it makes you comfortable in the now. And if it gets you to start like taking that next step, is something I tell my clients all the time. Like, just know your next step. Just be clear on what your next step is and take that. And if a plan helps that, then great. But just know that it's not gonna go accordingly. Like,
Stay flexible.
Just surrender. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I could not have planned any of this, and I don't think any one of us could have planned where we were. If we tried to, it'd probably end up like a dim shadow version of of what we're living now. And that's how I always see it, is like Kelsey in the beginning. I don't think she said it in a while, actually. We got to bring this back, but she always said, like, do you want it now or do you want it better? Right? Isn't that what she, something like that?
Yeah.
Do you want it now or do you want it better? So it's like, do you want it your way or do you want it better? You know, kind of the same thing. It's so true almost every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
a
like
good
this.
story.
I really want to cater this episode to all the people out there who are, because I feel that there's a big shift of people who are moving from, the box to out of the box, so to
Yeah.
speak. Not that there's anything wrong with being in the box. I mean, a lot of people have been in the box for a long time. That is a way to live if you so choose. But if you don't want to choose and you want to get out of the box, especially, for example, if you're wanting to leave your corporate job that you never really loved to start your own business, or something that takes a lot of courage and, motivation and fear overriding to do, what would you give as, I don't know, a starting point or some advice or a helpful perspective for people who are like wanting to start or wanting to follow their heart more, but they're just feeling too scared or too stuck?
Such a good question. I love this question. Because my answer is not something that you would maybe think or predict. And it's to do something that's not related to the actual thing that you're trying to create, that shakes up your routine, that encourages you to establish a better habit, or something that is you pouring into yourself, is you investing into you, that doesn't have so much of a charge to it because it's related to like your career or your purpose in life. Start small with something that is going to support you in living a life that's more true to that's nourishing your soul, that's nourishing your heart, but isn't directly related to the thing that you have all that resistance around. Because when you start to take those little steps, so for example, maybe you are wanting to add a day working out to your routine. You're like, maybe you go a couple days a week, and you know that if you went 4 days a week instead of 3, that you might start to feel a little bit better. Add that extra day of working out to your plan, and then the motivation that you get from that is going to serve the clarity and you becoming the person who invests in themselves in other areas, but it doesn't have that like resistance to, okay, I got to figure out like how to create my dream career today. Like, take those little steps.
Ooh, I just got anxiety thinking about and I already have it. Like, just thinking about, like, that's a mountain. That is an entire mountain range. Another thing that I really like to, first of all, that's fantastic. And I love that. And I think it's just another way to fill your own cup and honor your own needs anyway, because when you're so focused on a goal, blinders come on and you don't really do that a lot. So I think that that's really great to bring attention to. What do I do for myself that is outside of that? And I also really like, Kelsey and I a lot talk about on the show too. If I had this already, what would I be doing with my day right now? What would I be doing for fun right now? And for me, like, immediately in my head, oh, well, I'd probably be gardening, or I'd probably be, reading my book that I haven't really told myself I had a chance to do. I didn't really give myself time to do. So if you have the thing or the feeling of having the thing, like, what does that feel like? And go do something like that, because we talk a lot about, attach yourself to the emotion, attach yourself to emotion that you're trying to cultivate? Because it's never the thing, is it? It's always the freedom, it's always the stability, it's always the fulfillment, or the romance or whatever. So whatever that thing is, whatever that feeling is, there's something you can be doing to cast your net out right now and attach yourself to that and feel that. And like attracts like. So that's how that works. But yeah, that's what I like
Hannah,
to do too.
I think that's a brilliant piece of advice for two reasons. Because one, you're not like going head up against your resistance, which, as
Yeah.
we know, never works. You have to like untangle that before you can like move through, right? And then the other piece that I really love about it is that you're not living in a means to an end attitude, which a lot of times we're like, oh, I want to start my business and be an entrepreneur so that I can have
Yeah.
more free time, or so that I can make my schedule, or so that I can make more money. And it's like, well, if you go to the end state, I'm sure there are some ways that you can achieve it now that have nothing to do with that business, nothing to do with that line of work, nothing to do with that job, but you've brainwashed yourself into thinking that
That's the
that's
only
the
way.
only way, right? So you're living very conditionally, very means to an end. And sorry to burst your entrepreneurial bubble for anyone out there wanting to start a business, but like it takes a lot of time and energy up front. So if you're doing it to have more time to yourself, like that's not really how it's going to work out for a while. Like you're going to
Right.
have to put in the hours, the effort, the energy. If you're a solopreneur, you got to do it all by yourself in the beginning.
And
So
then
yeah.
after you've done all of that, like conditioning yourself to do all the upfront work, what my biggest problem now is, like, I have to uncondition that, because I have to remind myself, like, oh my gosh, I started this business so that I would be able to chill. Like, why can't I chill? And I think it's just because a lot of us get stuck in this, like, do, have to set up every system and have to make sure every cog is rotating and working correctly, and you forget that everything's fine and you don't really have to do that anymore. And so you have to, like, it's always a process of learning and unlearning, guys. It just is. And that's just
So
life,
true. So true. And I mean, that's why we hear so many of these success stories of people that gained external success and then burned out. It's like
Mhm.
it's that same idea of they were chasing a means to an end, like you said, Kelsey, and that wasn't ultimately what they wanted all along. And something that I like to do for myself all the time, especially, is working from the inside out. Like if I have a project, okay, cool. How many hours a day do I want to work on this project? What do I want my lifestyle to be? How do I
Yeah.
want to operate day to day? How do I want to feel day to day? And then reverse engineer. Okay, this is the strategy. This is how I'm going to approach this, rather than how do I get X amount of clients or make
Oh,
this amount of money or whatever the thing is. Start with the feeling, like Lindsay, you were saying as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
And start with the lifestyle, because
Mhm.
if you don't do that, you can get stuck in that means to an end and then end up kind of on a longer journey than you need to be. Like, for example, if you're like, oh, I want to, make a lot of money, but then you opt to like become a school teacher, maybe we should have like reverse engineered that a little bit better. Not to say that school teachers can't make money, but like in that profession, you're probably not going to make a lot of money. You'll probably have to have another business on the side or do something else to have another stream of income. So I think it's important to really start with the end game in mind. Like, what do you want your dream life to look like? And then keep that in mind as you're building a business and building your life and carving it out very intentionally, so that you don't end up 20 years later like, oh, I just spent so much time doing this thing that I love or I thought I liked the most, but I still couldn't achieve that life that I wanted.
Yeah.
Guys, this is gonna be so interesting. Can we do like a quick roundtable real quick? I know Kelsey
Love a
loves
good
a
round table.
roundtable, but I heard this question and I thought it was so fascinating, because I'm like answering it for myself, and then I asked my husband. And anyway, I'll just get to it. So there's this idea that there's two types of people that will answer two answers to this question, and the one answer is, well, one or the other is kind of how you approach and achieve goals, where you're at in your life, that kind of thing. Okay. So if I and you can just like think about the answer, and then I'll ask you guys what your answer is. So if I were to ask you, or tell you rather, that I need something from the store, what's the first thing that you do? Think about first thing that you do. So think about it. Everybody at home, think about it. Okay, and I'll explain. Hannah, what's the first thing you do?
You're telling me that you need to get something.
I'm telling you I need something from the store.
So I'm going to ask you what you need.
Kelsey?
Well, honestly, the first thing that came to mind is I was thinking of when I was going to go to the store, and then I was about to ask what they needed.
So like, when is it convenient for me
Yeah.
to go for you?
Like, if you need me to go, I'm going to go on my own time. Let me tell you.
Okay. Okay, so you guys kind of both answered it the same way. So the idea is there's two answers to this question. The first answer is, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my shoes on, I'm going to get my keys, and I'm going to go to the store. What store? What okay, the grocery store. Okay, so let's say you get to the grocery store. What do you do then? Okay, well, I'm going to call you and you're going to tell me what you need. What if I need a hammer? You're at the wrong store. You're at the complete wrong store. So and then the other answer, of course, is what do you need so that I know where I'm going? So the entrepreneurial mindset will have what do you need in their mind so that the destination is never a question. You know where you're going. Even when you don't know where you're going, you know where you're going. So that's kind of the two different mindsets. And I just thought it was so fascinating. And I was like, yeah, obviously ask what you need. Like, there is no other answer to this question. What could the other answer possibly be? And then I asked my husband, he's like, he goes to the store for me all the time, and it's always the grocery store. So it's not a real fair question, but he's just like, well, I would get my keys. What do you mean? And I was like, okay, interesting. I had to like explain the whole thing. And he's like, well, you make me go. I was like, I know. It's not a fair question to you. It's not like I'm asking a stranger, but it is interesting, is it not? Like, there are people that would show up at the wrong store and the whole journey is a waste because they're at the wrong store. They didn't know what they wanted. They didn't know what was needed for that journey, which is very cool, very interesting. So ask yourself that question. How would you answer it? Know where you're going. Because even if you don't know, you know a little bit.
I love that. And that it's a really good example of how so many of us are just operating on autopilot. Like this is just what you do. Says who? This is just how you're supposed to develop your career. Says who? This is how you're supposed to market. This is how you're supposed to run your business. This is what you're supposed to do on the weekends. Like, says who? It's we're on autopilot because, and I know Lindsay, we actually talked about this a little bit during our conversation. It's like our mind is just trying to conserve energy. So it's so easy to default to this is just going through the motions rather than really asking yourself, is this how you actually want to be living your life? So I love that example. I think that's a
and for me, like starting in my entrepreneurial journey, I was looking at everyone else. I was like, oh, that worked for them. I'll do that. That worked for them. I'll do that too. Oh, that works. Okay, I'll do that. Until I had enough evidence that what they're doing is not working for me. Only then was I able to be like, okay, what will work for me? What is the thing that I feel good about doing? Because none of the things that I picked up from other people really felt good. It was just like, well, this is what you do. This is what they did. This is what I'm going to do because it worked for them.
They
And
got
I didn't.
success.
Yeah, they got success.
Yeah.
And I think again, this is something. Yeah, this is something we talk about a lot on the show. But like stress. You have to not like be stressed. But I'm going to stress this statement, which is you have to find. Yes, emphasize what works for you. You have to find what works for you. If the biggest piece of advice that I wish someone gave me when I started is what worked for them is probably not going to work for you. So try a bunch of stuff and see what works. And it would have just saved me so much like feeling like I didn't do it right. It's not that I didn't do it right. It's just different styles, different ways of doing things. And that's okay, you know? And I did find what worked for me. Thank goodness after a while it worked.
Trust yourself.
Trust yourself. Exactly.
You've got to trust yourself. It's not the easy path again.
Yeah. Especially when you're new at it, it's definitely not easy to know what feels good and to trust what feels good because you have no idea what to base that off of. So I do hold space for that as well. But yeah, I wish somebody would have said, it's probably not going to work. Just so you know, it's probably not going to work for you. Find something that does. There is something that will work for you. You just got to find what it is. And that would have saved me so much like anxiety, I think.
Yeah. That is very relatable. Hannah, in the spirit of authenticity and knowing knowing like your own personal truths, what are some of your favorite questions that you ask yourself either on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, or favorite questions that you like to assign to clients when they might need like a little more clarity as far as like where to go?
Another great question. Something that I'm always checking in with is, where am I trying to make something right or wrong? Like,
Mm.
where am I trying to make the right decision right now, or say the right thing, or avoid the wrong decision, or avoid the wrong thing, and the right strategy or the wrong strategy? I find that so often that like binary definitive, it's right or it's wrong, really will take me to a place where I'm just not trusting in what's authentic in the moment, or trying to do the right thing instead of explore and get curious and just open up my mind to, well, what could be my truth about this? Because it's going to evolve, and my truth has evolved the more that I've done this work, the more that I've, again, like it's always been my spiritual journey, my inner journey, and my external journey have just been one and the same. And my business has changed, my self-concept, like all of the things have changed and continue to change and go through so many iterations. So the moment that you're trying to like grasp onto like, what is my truth right now, or what is my, like, who am I, or what is the thing, it's like those are the moments we start to steer into that trying to make something right or wrong, without releasing and surrendering to the journey of just realizing that your truth is going to change, and just allowing yourself. And then the next part of that question, the next answer for that is, I just allow myself to express. Like, just express something, like go write, go journal, just get the energy moving. And the more you just allow the energy to move, the more your truth will just kind of calibrate. It will come out. You'll discover things about yourself that you didn't know were there. So it's kind of like a two-parter, that right and wrong. And then once you get out of that, then just express what's real in the moment. And then you'll discover.
I
I
have a
like that.
question, because I just spoke with someone else about their need to express, which is it's a need that we all have, I think, and processing and letting the world see you and letting yourself process things. But do you know what your human design is?
Yes, I'm a 4/6 reflector.
Reflector. Okay.
Reflector.
Okay.
I
I
like
would
to
have guessed generator, because
qualify.
aren't they the ones that need to inform? They're the ones that have a message that they need to, like, I think. I don't
I
know.
think the
think
manifesting generators, because they move really
We
fast.
are,
So they're
yes.
supposed to like let people in before they like
We are
just
the
change the
we are
whole
the
world.
we're the informers and
okay,
the
yeah.
responders, manifesting generators, inform and respond. But generators are the informers, manifestors are the responders. Reflectors are, what are those?
Reflector. I'm a proud reflector because I'm the
Yeah.
no,
What is,
we're the
give us
weirdos.
educate
No.
us on the reflectors.
They're the most rare. You have all open energy channels, right?
I'm just open. Yeah.
She's
So I
100% open.
yeah. And I think that, we're all sensitive. I would say that I'm like hypersensitive to energies. And so for me to express is super, super important. But we reflect back the energy of the room.
Mm.
Um, so we're not necessarily driving the direction of the energy, but more so reflecting it. Intuitive types, I would say, like, a lot, all of the types have intuitive abilities, but it's just that like I'm constantly like on overload. That's
Yeah.
why like breath work and these practices are so important for my body, my nervous system, because I feel like I'm just like taking in information. But the more that I can allow that flow to happen and just like be present in the moment, then that's where I get to reflect back the beauty and the conversation that's available.
Okay. Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Love it.
reflectors are
Yeah.
meant to be like mirrors to society and to people.
Mhm.
That's why they make like
Mhm.
really good like guides and coaches and stuff, because they mirror things like pretty accurately.
Yeah, like I can't tell someone what to do. Like I can't, if I tried, I couldn't. So it's been interesting as a marketer and a coach to just provide space for people to discover their own truth.
By the way, I was wrong. The manifestor is the informer, the generator is the responder, but we do still have both. So I was right about that. I didn't want to say the wrong thing because I know there's going to be people like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And they're right.
For
So
anyone,
how does that work in your creative process, like with responding?
Oh,
I hate it.
well.
Cursed by
Yeah.
my type.
Kelsey was so sure. What were you so sure you were a manifester,
I
like a
always
pure
thought I was a
manifester?
manifester until I like
Yeah.
actually ran my chart and I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I have a whole house full of, I have 3 boys and a husband that are all generators. And apparently what that means is because I'm a manifesting generator, like my thing is we're always on the go. Like we always are like 10 steps ahead in our brains, in our minds, and we don't really like and let everyone else know where we're at. So, which is true. And I was told just like be sure not to just leave them in the dust when you are like in your zone with all the planning and the mapping. And it's very true. I think what's true about me in that arena, and I think Kelsey too, is we have a lot of things that we are good at, and we have a lot of things that we cultivate, like a lot of different projects, a lot of different avenues for which we work, and that can be very overwhelming for me. But I can't not do it. It's so funny. Like you just have to be on the go all the time. The
Yeah.
responding is hard because I feel like I have to do. And the waiting to respond is difficile for me.
I feel like
Spanish.
for me, the piece that is so obvious in my life is the multi-passionate nature of the
Yeah.
manifesting generator. Like, even within just if we called kelseyaida.com a business, its own business, even within that, there's the coaching, there's retreats, there's writing books, there's a podcast, right? So it's like multi branches. And then aside from that, I also still do hair 1 day a week. Aside from that, I'm like building this new homestead where I live. So my life always has like at least 3 giant projects, and each project has like 5 different branches, right? So I'm always like really juggling a lot of stuff, which I like because I get bored if I do the same thing all the
Yeah.
time. But the responding piece is it's kind of difficult for me because I just like to respond to my own ideas. I don't always like to respond to like other people's invitations. I feel like, oh, I have this great idea, I'm going to do it, but then it doesn't always like pan out to something awesome. Sometimes it's better when someone asks me, like Lindsay asked me to do this podcast, for example, and I had set the intention to have a podcast. So I was like, oh, here's my podcast landing in my lap when Lindsay invited me to do it. So it's interesting
And then
how it
I got
works.
invited to do the podcast, and then I invited her to do the
Yeah,
podcast.
that's true. Lindsay got invited to do a show, and then she invited me to do the show with her, and
Sharing
now we have a
invitation.
podcast.
I never really put that together before now. Like we literally responded to that.
Pretty funny.
Oh, I
That is
love that.
funny.
Seeing your design at work. I love that.
Yeah.
Would you
Yeah.
say that being multi-passionate, Kelsey, that they also all kind of fuel and inspire each other? Like, do you find connections between the
Sometimes
two?
there's connection. Like, well, they all fall under the umbrella for me of making the world a more beautiful, feel good place. So if I'm making someone beautiful via a badass haircut, or if I'm like, sometimes I'll do energy work on my clients at the bowl, like at the salon. Or for example, if one of my clients is telling me about a loved one that's passed, I might offer to do like a reading on the spot because I'm getting all this information. Or like in this work of manifestation and self-love, I do pull a lot of stories that people tell me at the salon to like into my books, or like manifestation stories people have told me, or interesting things. So they do definitely have crossover, but I would say they all fall under the same goal of like creating more heaven on earth and making the world more beautiful, like inside and out.
Oof. I love the way you just described that thread that's through all the different things. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people relate to that because we were kind of talking about that earlier, like feeling like people are trying to get outside of the box